And welcome back to the Junk and Nerd Podcast, where we love our beer like we love our mythology, our comic books, our TV shows, and our movies. My name is Carl, and with me always is my co-host.
Almost always.
The guardian of is to say Asgard. Shipper.
So wrong.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was all terrible.
So bad.
How you doing today?
Yes, you are the ass today.
No, I'm an ass. You're an Asgard. Anyway.
Do I guard your ass? Oh, it's so wrong. Come on, man.
I don't know where that was going.
I have no idea there, but that was just so wrong.
The initial
thing only
question
5
remains,
people
how
listen
you
to
doing?
us.
How you doing?
Fine.
Good. I was about to say that was my first beer I've opened as a married man, but I opened
I was going to say.
I opened a couple 2-3 on the night of the wedding.
That's all right. Somebody got married over the weekend.
Yeah. You could
Hint, it wasn't me, because I've been for a while.
That's the sound of a ring.
I was like, what are you flicking?
The ring. To show the people. They can't see it, so I was letting them
Through
hear
the magic of audio.
Yeah, I was letting them hear the ring.
Kiss the ring? Are you the Pope? I'm not kissing your hand.
All right.
Get that thing out of my face.
I draped it out there, though. He refused. Let the record show he did refuse. Anyway.
Rightfully so.
Oh, it's been, 2 weeks? 2 weeks this time, because I had a bunch of wedding stuff going on last week.
You went to wedding stuff. I went on vacation over the weekend. Yeah, we've been busy.
Where'd you go to vacation?
I went to the oh-so mystical lands of the Poconos.
Oh,
with my
right
family.
next to my home world over there.
Actually, we stayed in Scranton, so pretty much was your home world.
Terrible.
We didn't stay long. Yeah, we only stayed there to sleep.
Not even to sleep. You drove in, you saw what it looked like, and you just turned right around.
Yeah.
You planned to stay there.
Conveniently located U-turn right at the entrance next to the Welcome to Scranton sign.
There is, actually.
Is there really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
There's an intersection where you're allowed to make U-turns right after the sign. The famous sign from The Office.
Is it? I didn't go downtown, so...
That'd
be funny if the backside said, thanks for staying for more than 2 seconds.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for making a U-turn in front of the sign.
They actually, the sign that's in the opening credits of The Office, they had to take that down because it's on a highway that there is no shoulder.
Oh, and everybody was stopping.
People were just stopping in the middle of the road to get out and take a picture with it. So they had to remove that one. How,
To be fair, I did see a Dunder Mifflin t-shirt this weekend.
To be fair... Letterkenny? Alright.
Anywho.
How is the neighbor doing? 2 weeks? That's a lot of time to do some work.
Last week he was doing some more breaking up of stones in his stone garden.
That's good. You gotta break them down before they grow.
I'm saying.
Everybody knows.
You gotta break them up to build them back up. Whatever he was doing cutting trim boards, the trim boards are still out in his backyard, so I'm sure they've been rained on a few times since then.
Good. That'll help the rocks grow, at least.
They're in separate spots, but yeah.
Rocks need some good...
The other day,
brewing.
Janice brought up that he had a foosball table outside. I'm sure that's been rained on a few times.
What? Is it still out there?
I don't know. I didn't see it. Or I haven't seen it.
I want that.
You have a foosball table in your backyard so it gets rained on?
Yeah. A warped foosball table. That way the ball never gets stuck in the middle.
That's right.
Where the players can't reach it.
That makes sense. I'll accept that one. I'll accept that answer.
So...
Yes, I don't know.
I was married this weekend, as we mentioned before.
Did you get divorced already?
No.
You said you was married.
I was... The wedding was this weekend. It was down in Maryland, so I have brought back a beer from Maryland, from Duclaw Brewing Company, which is in Baltimore. I was technically an hour or so outside of Baltimore. Whatever.
It's all the same.
This is Pivot. Like I said, by Duclaw. You don't get the reference. Shipper has never seen Friends.
I was going to say I've never seen Friends. I just don't know it like everybody else does.
And it's a Friends-themed beer. It says right on it, "Thank you for being my friend," which is the theme song of Friends, as we all know.
Not at all, but okay.
Yeah.
If Friends was actually Golden Girls.
Yeah. Golden Girls is the original Friends.
They are the original Friends.
Yeah. So this is...
The golden of always friends.
Truth. In the golden years. And Betty White played an old woman in an 80s sitcom, and she's still alive.
Well, the funniest part is...
strong.
What was... I can't remember the actress name, but she played Estelle, the old woman,
Yeah.
was younger than... Oh, what is her name? Played her daughter.
B.
Yeah, B. Arthur.
Yeah.
B. Arthur was older than the actress who played her mother.
That's crazy.
I know, isn't it?
That she was such a tiny old woman. She
was.
She looked old.
She played
looked
the part
delightful.
well.
Yeah, she was sassy.
Yeah. But you're right. Betty
Enough
White being
about
the
Golden
older.
Girls. We're talking about our Friends themed beer, and we want to stop talking about Golden Girls.
It's a better show.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, argue that one.
So this is Pivot. It's one of the most famous scenes in the history of Friends, where Ross, Chandler, and another one was trying to move a couch up to Ross's apartment, and they were using the stairs. And it was one of those staircases where, like, you walk up, and then there's a plateau with a 180-degree turn, and then up again.
So typical apartment stairs.
Yeah, and they were trying to get a full-size couch up there.
Yeah.
So
I think I've probably seen this episode.
Ross is trying to move it. It gets stuck at the 180 part, and Ross is just going, pivot, 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 and he's just shouting that for a while. And that is, I would say, almost a direct reference by this beer.
And it's spelled out just like the Friends logo, the P-I-V-O-T, with
Yes,
the dots,
with the dots in between.
Yeah. And actually, it says pivot in exclamation marks.
Yep.
On the other one, spelled P-I-V-A-T-T, exclamation.
Pivot.
There's also pivot, P-I-V-O-O-T.
Well, that's for the Canadian version of Friends.
Oh, okay. There's also pivot spelled in an arc, because it's pivoting.
Yep. A pivot.
There's a random 90-degree angle on it.
Well, because we were trying to figure out the angle, the pivot angle. And then there's like a little staircase.
Yeah, I see that. And it's a nice little reference. Is that the couch, the red, black, or is it just a whatever couch they were on this game?
I believe that's the couch from the coffee shop that they sat at. I
Is
don't
it?
think this was the couch
That
that they were pivoting.
Maybe. I don't remember.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anyway, this is a...
Did we say it's from Duclaw? I forget.
Yeah, from Duclaw. This is the fourth time.
Okay.
This is a hazy double, which is right up my alley. 8.5%. And it is a pounder can. And it requests that we always recycle. So with that. One sip, everyone knows the rules. Except that guy's a douche. Barstool. Dave, whatever, the president. Guy sucks. He reviews pizza, and he always says, one bite, everyone knows the rules. And he takes a bite, and then he rates the pizza. Although he often takes more than one bite. This is delicious.
It's not bad. It's not my favorite, but it's up there. I'll accept it as a good one.
I love it.
It's pretty hefty beer, 8.5%.
That's what I'm saying. This is, I mean, it's smooth, a little heavy, a little strong. Six holes. 6 hole beer.
6 hole?
Yeah. Assuming I'm not drinking it fast.
Yeah. So, unrelated but related. Because, like I said, we went to Poconos, and we went to this one winery, brewery, distillery up there called Mountain View.
You almost mixed up the word distillery with the word Saturday.
No, cidery.
Oh, cider. They said Saturday.
No, distillery.
Yeah, those are the same thing.
I mean, we went Friday and Monday. So they have a hazy double IPA that touted zero IBUs. So IBU, for people who don't know, is...
I know what that means, but tell everybody else.
Because Carl knows exactly what it is. As he looks at me with deer headlights. IBUs is the International Bittering Unit. It basically measures how bitter a beer is. From 0 to, I've seen 2, 3, 400.
How bitter a beer be?
How bitter a beer be?
Yeah.
The triple Bs.
The 3 Bs.
So typical IPAs tend to be minimum 40 to 60 IBUs. Kat, we're not talking to you.
The cat's got a lot to say about IBUs.
Well, we were gone all weekend, so he's very glad we're home. Because he had to deal with his other cat brothers, and he wasn't happy about that, I guess. But so IPAs, like I said, tend to be 4 to 60. Seems to be good IPAs generally. I don't know what this one is specifically that we're drinking right now. It does not say.
I don't see it.
To say something has 0 IBUs, even like a Pilsner has like 10.
Right.
Like, so it it touted that it had 0. I had it, and it was good, but it was missing something.
IBUs.
It was missing the IBUs.
It was missing IBUs.
So Janice ended up looking it up to see how you make a 0 IBU beer, and it's when you do the hop. You boil everything, and you put the hops just for flavoring, not because you boil hops in different stages. Like basically the wort, which is once you boil the grains, that's wort, and then you boil it for an hour, and you add your hops at different times based on bitterness, flavor, and aroma. So the longer hops boils, the more bitterness imparted into the beer.
Right.
All the hops are at the end.
Right.
At either
they stop
less
boiling it, and then they throw hops
them
in.
Yeah. So it's all flavor, no aroma, no. So for me, it almost came up a little flat in flavor. Not that it was bad; it was good.
Yeah.
But it was odd to have a 0% IBU beer because it just felt like it was missing. Even Janice had the same feeling about it.
Are you saying this reminds you of that?
No,
Maybe
it's just
this
that
is
we were
lower in the IBUs.
This is definitely going to be a little higher. This is probably in the 40s or 50s. It's a
Right.
standard IPA. The only reason it made me think of it is because the hazy double IPA is exactly what it was too. So it made me think of that. That was my story from the weekend about beer.
Oh my god!
Sorry, sidetracked.
What a story! That was
informative for people who actually want to know how
it was a
beer is
real
made.
roller coaster, though.
It was, wasn't it? Don't hate on my stories.
I'll hate on everything you do.
I know, it's a given.
Yeah. Well, this beer was... I didn't technically pick it up. This beer was given to me by my wife, Katie. And
How many times you messed that up so far?
What? None.
None? Huh?
No, I've been saying wife for
Since before.
a month or so now because I hate the word fiance. I think it's
fiancé.
stupid.
That's a reference for my wife to get.
All right, you can have fun with that, Janice. I don't get it, and I don't want to. But this beer was purchased by my wife, and she gave it to us.
Were you there when she bought it?
No.
Oh, okay.
So that we could review it on the podcast because she's
thanks,
a
Katie.
big Friends fan, and she's a big Duclaw Brewing fan, and
She's a big Carl fan.
she's a big fan of me. But also, she gave us this week's topic, like over a month ago. She recommended this.
Okay.
So she wanted to be the one to supply the beer for the topic that she had technically come up with,
Okay.
which is mythology, the actual mythos compared to how it is portrayed in the comics or movies.
What is borrowed, what is retold, as it were.
Yes, and what is just outright changed.
What is just not existent.
Yeah.
Why even bother?
Or just added for no reason whatsoever, which I have one of those.
Yeah, I got all that.
So, I don't know who's going first here.
Oh, don't matter. I can go first.
How about you go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
You always go first. I'll go first.
All right. All right.
So this week, in this topic, I covered the Greek mythos in Marvel.
Oh, we'll clear it up. You did Greek/Roman or just Greek?
Greek.
They're
We'll say it's
basically the
Greek/Roman,
same.
and there's a
Yeah.
reason. I'll get to it.
And I did Norse.
Yes. Also, clarify: these are not the only mythologies that the major comic brands have taken. Janice actually sent me a link to Wikipedia that was like gods in comics, and it was an exhaustive list.
It's
of
probably a year and a half long.
Yeah, it was like Incan, Mayan, like it's all over the place. These are the big ones people are going to look at.
Yeah.
Between Greek and then.
Well, we primarily just went with one region of the world each, and we decided to focus on that instead of us just literally shooting a shotgun into a wall from 50 feet away and trying to put the pieces back together.
That's an analogy. Okay. So yeah, my focus on Greek, and the reason I say Greek and Roman are kind of the same thing is, even though in the mythological sense these are two different mythos, very similar mythos. The Greek and Romans obviously being very co-located in a very dense part of the Mediterranean. Their stories obviously translated between each other. You get a lot of different names, but similar stories. in DC specifically, and even a little bit in Marvel, they used the Greek and Roman mythology. They basically said they were the same people until specifically a ne'er-do-weller, and I can't think of the name of the person who actually did it, tricked the gods into delineating their own power, so cutting themselves in half, more or less, and becoming two separate entities.
Right.
And
then that was probably just some guy that lived directly in between Rome and Athens, and he just got sick of people being like, Ares is better than Mars, and the other guy's like, no, Mars is better than Ares, and this guy's like, they're the same fucking person. I'm just going to create this new guy that just decided to make them
pretty much but even. No. That sounds about right. So the DC Comics was the first one to use the Greek gods in name. They debuted comics for it in 1942.
What names?
They call them the Olympians.
Which is this like an Avengers squad?
No, this is literally like if you were to open your history book from high school and look up Greek gods, it's literally them.
But like, did they create them as a team, like the Olympians, or is this just like a run of comics featuring the Olympians?
Well, let me get there.
It's a valid question, Chip.
It is, but you haven't even let me get to the point.
I just want to know if this is like the X-Men, where I could guess the original team of Olympians.
Oh, you want to guess the original?
That was what I was going for.
You could have just said, "Can I guess the original team of Olympians?" Yes, they are technically considered a squad. They are not, however, an Avengers type situation.
Right. So obviously Ares.
Yes, of course.
Hermes. Athena.
Yes.
Is Atlas in there?
No.
Hercules. Although he's Roman, isn't he?
Well, Hercules. So Hercules is in there. He is considered an Olympian, but not. He's not considered a god. So in the mythos of Zeus, he's a demigod. In the mythos of DC, he's a demigod. So he's not considered an Olympian, but he is considered an Olympian because he's under the Olympian umbrella.
Right. Of course, I knew that.
And the Greeks call him Heracles, the Romans call him Hercules.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah. They're literally changing two letters around.
The same with Hera.
It's a different dude. Yeah.
Hera.
Hera.
Yeah.
Zeus.
Gave you
obviously.
that one. Yeah, Zeus.
Yep.
Yeah, gave you that
Zeus
one.
and his lightning bolts. Did they bring Hades into it?
So funny enough, no.
That's strange.
Hades is replaced. Well, yes and no. Hades exists in. Hold on. Hades exists in the DC version, but he goes by different name in the Marvel.
Oh, they take him from Norse in the Marvel one.
Nope.
Nah?
No, there's Olympians in Marvel.
It's not just Hell?
Nope. Hell is a place.
No, Hell is both.
Not in.
Oh yeah, all right.
Not
so
in,
we're getting. I'm getting into mine.
You're starting to slip into Norse.
Yeah. You carry on. Sorry.
So, the Marvel does have the Olympians as well. They came out in the 1965. They, instead of using Hades, used Pluto.
Okay.
And so I looked this up, and I was like, okay, what's the difference between Pluto and Hades? There actually isn't.
One's Greek, one's Roman.
Yes. Hades became the designation of hell. And so I take that back. Hell was Norse, and I got that confused. My fault. Hades became the designation of hell, and Pluto became more of a positive connotation to Hades. Pluto being the like the arbitrator of the souls to Hades. So when Marvel came out with it, they went with Pluto, even though Pluto is a bad guy still in the Marvel universe, just as Hades is a bad guy in the DC universe. So why they swapped
Hades
them?
isn't actually a bad guy in the mythos.
No.
Well, again, you're going to get into that. This all got backtracked because I wanted to guess who you were covering and who the original Olympians were.
No, you're fine. I can just we're
good at this point.
Yeah,
we're good.
Aphrodite, Apollo, Ares, Artemis, Athena, Dionysus, Hephaestus, Hera, Hercules, Hermes, the huntsman, who kind of doesn't exist in the DC, and Neptune. So the big ones everyone's going to think of.
Neptune, i.e. Poseidon.
Poseidon, yeah.
Who in Marvel essentially just became Namor.
Sort of.
It's like the same.
No, Namor was like Aquaman.
Yeah.
But Aquaman, they're not the god.
This is just all different.
Yeah. See, we need, that one meme of Charlie Day, and it's always like this weird like background of him like connecting things with strings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how I'm feeling with this.
Pepe Sylvia. From the episode of Always Sunny that he does that.
Oh, is that what it's? I knew Charlie Day's in so many things. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I figured it was probably Always Sunny.
Yeah, it's Always Sunny.
But he's just like you know, it's just kind of where this is.
Yeah.
Interesting about DC take on the Olympians is that it's pretty much centered in the Wonder Woman story.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Wonder Woman being the daughter of Hippolyta, who was also a Greek mythos, named after the Queen Hippolyta of Themyscira, the Amazons. That's all Greek mythology as well. In the original Wonder Woman backstory, she was made from clay and brought to life by Hephaestus in his kiln or whatever, his forge. When they redid it after, I think it was Crisis of Infinite Earth or something like that, they redid everybody's backstories in the 80s. And then she's actually a demigod just like Hercules is. She's the daughter of Zeus and Hippolyta. And then she goes on to has many battles against Ares. That's her like main foe, is going after Ares because Ares is out.
He was the bad guy in the first Wonder Woman movie.
Yes. And that's actually like the new backstory for Wonder Woman is that concept.
Right.
It even follows the love interest with
Steve Trevor.
Steven. And
Chris Pine.
Yeah. You also get where was I going? You mentioned Hercules, and in the DC lore, Hercules is a prominent character. His backstory is exactly the same as the mythos, where he is the demigod of Zeus. He's got, he was, grabbed the snakes and as a baby, and then he killed his wife and his kids under influence of, I think it was Hera that made him do it. And then he's got the 12 labors going after the Nemean line. Like, there's comic books dedicated to this.
Oh, right.
Even though it's
like the actual story.
Right. It's literally just reading history in a comic book form.
Well, that the Romans and the Greeks, the gods frequently, we'll say, hooked up with humans. And that's how there were so many demigods. Yeah. Because the gods were coming down and just, like, cheating on their god wives with humans. Yep. Constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And that's... Perseus is another very famous one, but he was
Persephone as well.
Yeah, I almost said Aquaman. Poseidon and a common woman. That was Perseus, and then easily the most famous demigod of all time is Hercules, which is Zeus and a common woman, and that's why Hera tricked him into killing his family because Hera hated Hercules for obvious reasons.
Was not happy about that. And then the only difference is like the 12 labors in the mythos are established onto him by a king. I forget which king it is. In the comics, it's given by one of the gods, and I don't remember which god off the top of my head. Right. And I didn't write it down for some reason. I did not do good with notes this week. Carl actually has notes.
Handwritten notes.
Second time in 12 episodes you have notes.
They're handwritten?
Twice.
Or they're not
both
done
times?
at all?
I'm saying. All or none. So, like I said, Hercules in the DC world is pretty much just the same thing as you would find in a history book. You see him as adversary to Wonder Woman a lot because he's always doing something that pisses her off.
So is he a bad guy in the DC universe, or is he just like some guy that does dumb stuff?
Yeah, it's more of
doesn't
it.
Like that.
There's one comic where Hercules actually challenges Hippolyta to conquest, like combat trial kind of thing, and he tricks her and beats her, and that's how he leads a band of men to take over Themyscira. Oh. And then there ends up being like revenge against him for that, and so yes. Yeah, he's not bad, but he's not really good, which is actually follows more true in line to the story of Hercules is that he's really not that great of a person. He's just like you see the Disney version, and he's like altruistic, but he's really not.
Yeah.
Like the whole 12 labors of Hercules like I said, he was atoning for the death of his wife and his kids, but it was also him like going around just slaughtering things and like the Nemean lion and there was, I forget all the 12 labors, but anyways, digress.
There's the Hydra.
Yes, the Hydra. I forgot about the Hydra. There's a bunch of other things that are less known.
Yeah.
There's 10 others.
There was the lion, the Hydra, the other one.
If only we had something in our hands that we could look things up with.
That third one. Some say the fourth one.
There may be a 10th one in there.
Yeah. Sure, I was getting to that at some point.
Interesting enough, so the Marvel version of the Olympians came out in the 60s. And
what year specifically? Do you
65.
You know? Okay. So
that goes in with what you're going to talk about?
62. Stan Lee decided to bring Thor into it.
Okay.
So he found success with Thor, and then he's like,
specifically that is the answer.
Let's stretch this out.
Specifically, that is the reason.
Yeah.
They found success with bringing in Thor, Loki, Odin, and said, well, let's try this.
Yeah.
To lesser extent.
Yeah.
Lesser success was found.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what happened.
Oh.
So whereas I guess they're both considered extra-dimensional beings. Interesting, powers-wise, DC, pretty much all the gods have their own power schemes. Hercules is super strong and all that jazz. DC, or Marvel, made everybody a god. Even Hercules is a god. They all have the exact same powers. Strength, speed, stamina.
Lightning bolts.
A few of them have extra powers, like Zeus has lightning bolts. Aphrodite can influence love, where you kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Ares is a really good combatant. In Hercules, they gave him high boxing and.
So he's an MMA star.
Yeah, he's an MMA guy. Skilled in boxing, archery, and Greco-Roman wrestling. Those were like his big claims to fame. I think that's one of his. It might be one of his 12 labors too.
He has to wrestle something?
It was wrestling, yeah. Yeah, Greeks and Romans were big into
well, that's why
the Olympics.
Greco-Roman.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could figure out some kind of way to tie Greco-Roman into the Greeks or the Romans. If only we were smarter.
Now, unlike DC, Marvel actually made the Olympians their own kind of storylines. Specifically, like Hercules, you find him a lot actually working with Thor, which is interesting. Sometimes he fights against Thor, but a lot of times it's with Thor. It's weird.
They ever had like an arm wrestling issue?
They might have. He actually beats Thor
over the top.
Yeah, mullet and everything.
Yeah.
He actually beats Thor in one of the comics. He ends up with an axe, I believe, that's almost it's made of the same material as Mjolnir. Sorry.
Yeah.
But doesn't have the sentience that Mjolnir does.
Right.
Which is Thor's hammer.
Yep.
For those who don't know.
Yeah. For those who are waiting for me to get into Thor, so they'll find out what that is in 10 minutes or whatever.
Right. Also, Hercules creates his own group called the Champions, and he's the founding member, and 4 of the 5 other members we've talked about before.
Am I supposed to guess these ones now?
I'm gonna wait for you to see if you can.
Oh, okay. So the Champions, I'm guessing they're all super strong, or are they? Give me one hint. Are they super strong, or is it just some kind of? Is it ego driven?
I don't really know why they're all together. They're all very different power sets.
Okay.
And one of them I don't even. I kind of know, but I don't know.
Okay. Is this in Marvel or DC?
This is Marvel.
Marvel. All right.
I will say 1 is a known Avenger.
Okay.
2 are known X-Men.
Okay.
1 and the
Wolverine?
No.
Cyclops?
No.
Beast?
No.
Prof X?
No.
Tony Stark?
No.
This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible.
Probably is.
The Hulk?
No.
Jeez, it's impossible. This is absolutely impossible.
One of these characters has their own movie we've discussed.
Movie that we've discussed. I already said Iron Man. Is Ghost Rider in this?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
That's one of them.
Go home. Should have put that. That would have made a better movie.
Probably.
Just Ghost Rider versus Hercules.
The other members?
Is Angel?
Yes.
All right.
Angel is one of them.
And I really want to say
original X-Men we discussed.
Oh, it is original?
Original X-Men. We talked about it 2 months ago.
Yeah. It's very difficult to remember that far along. The only one I can think of right now is Bishop, but it's not going to be Bishop or
Bishop is not an X-Men. He was on X-Force.
It's the same thing. He was in the X-Men movie. There's one of an X-Men in that. Anyway, all right.
Iceman.
Why would Bobby Drake?
I don't know.
Assuming that it's the Bobby Drake version of Iceman.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or it isn't. The other two members are Black Widow and Darkstar.
That is...
It is the weirdest group of people.
That is a bizarre pairing.
And then add Hercules as the founding member.
Yeah.
And these are called the Champions. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I didn't get into the backstory of the Champions, so I can't answer the question of why. When I looked at it, I was like, okay. Also, I did say that all the gods were gods, including Hercules.
Yeah.
What's Hercules the god of in the Marvel Universe?
Strength.
One. He's the god of two things.
Oh. So, I really want to say sex.
No.
No, that's not it.
Greco-Roman sex.
Yeah. Like hair. Something. It's going to be something stupid.
It's once I tell you, you'll be like, oh, of course he is. Of course he is.
Narcissism or something stupid like that.
No.
Alright, what?
Labor.
Strength of labor? Yeah, sure. Alright.
See?
Alright.
Of course he is. All the other gods are, god of lightning.
He should have been the god of strength and the god of sex.
That would have been funnier. So, yeah, that's more or less where I went with all this. Marvel, like I said, made bigger leaps to create more story, more history, more life into the Greek gods / Roman gods.
Where DC just took them and made comic books about their mythos.
But it did other things with them.
Right. Had him feud with Wonder Woman for one.
Pretty much where it sticks around, yeah. Wonder Woman's always running around like, by Ares.
Now, did Wonder Woman come first, or did they bring these guys in and then introduce Wonder Woman as almost their own Olympian?
That's a good question. I can tell you that in a second.
Because that would be interesting to see if they went with the Greek mythology and then they essentially invented their own.
Well, Wonder Woman was actually written by a psychologist.
Steven Psychologist.
Steven Psychologist. There's actually a movie about the creation.
It's called Wonder Woman.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, because Wonder Woman's in it and she fights Ares.
No. No, I forget there's actually...
Steve Trevor crashes on the island,
and
then his bow and arrows are his guns, and somehow most of the bow and arrows win.
Somehow bow and arrows do win. Magic bow and arrows. No, there's actually a movie about the creation because Wonder Woman was created as a feminist role model kind of thing, and talking about whatever year when it came out. Hold on,
she was a real Susie homemaker.
Jesus, I wish there was a.
That was what that was called, wasn't it? The sexist policy thing of the 60s.
Something like that, yeah. Wonder Woman came out in 41, so yes.
Wonder Woman came 25 years before this that we're talking about.
Well, no, the DC's brought in the Olympians in 42.
Oh, okay.
So Wonder Woman was debuted first. They added the Olympians to give her a backstory.
This was probably like a Thor to Marvel bringing them in situation where they essentially created a Greek god and then they're like, this is doing well, let's bring in the Greek gods to flesh this out kind of thing.
Because they probably named her as an Amazon kind of based off of the mythos as it was.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Wonder Woman was originally created by a psychologist and based like the character off of like a couple of girls that he was seeing. Like the movie, I never saw the movie, but I kind of knew of it. And there's a
You've
couple.
Never seen the Wonder Woman movie?
Yep, never seen the movie. That's the movie exactly I've been talking about the entire time.
It's the best DC movie so far.
I would agree with that.
With the exception, I'm saying of
with
the
the
DC
exception
universe.
of the David Hasselhoff Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is Marvel.
Oh, that's true.
You jackass.
I just want to throw that in there.
With the exception of the Nolanverse, like, it is the best DC movie.
Yeah. The Batman's?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that.
That movie you've never seen? The other DC movies are just that bad that you can blindly agree with it?
I've seen Wonder Woman, jackass.
You said you haven't.
I'm talking about the movie that's about the creation of Wonder Woman.
Oh.
I haven't seen that movie, but it's about a psychologist and these women that he's seeing, and he creates Wonder Woman off the image of one of them.
Linda Carter.
A few years before that. Like 20. Anyways, so that's where I'm at with that. I do have a follow-up question after you do your part.
Okay. What do you want? You want me to start with characters, or you want me to start with world building?
I want you to start with wherever you feel comfortable starting, Carl.
I'm going to start with world building then.
Because you're better at it than I am.
Okay, so the Norse gods, they live on Asgard, whatever. They're called the Aesir. I'm talking strictly mythology right now. This is what
the
it
mythos.
is.
Yeah.
And then I'll get into what Marvel for the world building.
They're Asgardians, but
yeah, but they're
the Aesir is like the level of
like we're
gods.
humans.
Yeah,
they're Aesir.
Yeah, it's their yeah.
There are actually 2 defined realms in Norse mythology. There are 9 realms, but 2 of them are always Asgard and Earth. The other 7 change based on like myth to myth, and like that changes based on the region to region, specifically of the Norse region.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel says there's a solid 9 of them that never change, and they just chose the 8 most popular of the Norse mythology, and they never defined the 9th one, and it's widely speculated that the 9th, like one of the most popular realms of Norse mythology, is Vanaheim. And
is that where Vanna White is from?
Who's Vanna White?
From Wheel of Fortune?
She can be. She could be the sole survivor of Vanaheim.
That might be. It wasn't really called Vanaheim. She was just a sole survivor, and she was renamed as Vanaheim.
Because, and this is widely speculated as to why Marvel left Vanaheim out of their realms. The Aesir, so the heroes of the Marvel Norse mythology world, just rolled into Vanaheim and slaughtered them, like just to take their land and absorb their culture.
Maybe the fact that Vanna White has had the same job for
40 years.
Yeah, almost 50 years, and hasn't aged a day was the deal she made.
She's the sole survivor.
Yeah, it was like, all right, fine. I won't tell anybody you slaughtered my peoples and my families.
As long as you let me live and just go on Wheel of Fortune for the rest of my days.
And make sure I have one dress per show, never repeats.
That's like the contract that she signed to stay alive. I'll just be on TV. I'll just be smiling, touching squares, making them turn into letters.
The rest of my life, I'm collecting 6 figures the entire time.
Yeah.
Or whatever Smash you're making.
So my specific notes say they probably left Vanaheim out because that's a dick move. And you don't want your heroes doing that big of dick moves. Which is kind of crazy that they still included Thor and Odin as their 2 big heroes once you hear some of the stuff they're in.
Well, yeah, because, again, just like they do to Hercules, where Hercules is, so good or whatnot, they make them more palatable than they really are.
Yeah. But what I thought was kind of cool is Marvel took we're going to say the 6 most popular realms outside of Earth and Asgard. Obviously, they kept those in there because you kind of have to. If you're going to make it a story set on Earth about Asgardians, you kind of need to keep Earth and Asgard.
Yeah.
But then they took the remaining 6 and they tied it into their comic book stories. Like, there's the realm of Hell, who is actually run by Hel. That can be confusing for some people.
Female.
Yes.
However, Hel is a female god.
Hel is just the overseer of Hell, which is the land of the dead, and Hel is neutral. as Hel, some may say. Like, she does nothing. She
opposed
oversees
to
Hel.
the character in the movies.
Yeah, they took
where she's a little pissed off.
They took Hel, changed her to Hela to avoid confusion, partially, but also because comic standards, when all this was coming out, you couldn't have the word Hel in it because that was too raunchy of a word. So
one L was too raunchy.
Yes,
H-E-L. It's not H-E-L-L, it's H-E-L.
It's H-E-L. But they were torn between changing her character name to Hela or Heck. So,
oh gosh darn Heck.
Yeah, we almost had the character of Heck running amok in the Thor Ragnarok movie.
You do get, old school Robin going, gee willikers. So
yeah, well, that's then. This is so Hela is the goddess of death in the Marvel universe, the daughter of Odin, and the enemy of Thor.
Sibling rivalry.
Yes, they kind of shoehorn Hela in to create Odin as a worse guy in his past in the Marvel universe, when in reality, Odin was just a terrible dude in his past. They kind of used Hela to give Odin a free pass.
Yeah,
and the
kind
actual
of redeeming factor.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah.
But like in the actual mythos, Hela she doesn't concern herself with the squabbles of the Asgardians.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing about like Hades. Hades not really bad in the mythos. He's just overseer of hell.
It's just too easy. You see, okay, this is the person that's in charge of the dead. That's an easy bad guy.
Yeah.
Because they want more dead people, kind of thing, or whatever.
Or if you're not good, hell's going to come and grab you, or whatever the case may be.
Hela as Fenrir, the giant wolf in the movie. That's Fenrir.
Fenrir. Yep.
Fenrir is just like the guardian of hell. He's not actually a big evil dog. He's a good boy. He's just a giant ass wolf.
Just like Hades has the three-headed
Cerberus,
yeah, three-headed dog.
Next realm, Nidavellir, which is a realm in the Marvel universe. It is a planet.
Okay.
That is where the dwarves live. That is where Thor gets Mjolnir. All that remains exactly the same. Primary difference: it's not a planet; it's a realm.
That's Marvel's take on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just make sure.
It's a realm in the actual mythos. It's a planet in the Marvel take.
Which you see in one of the movies.
Infinity War.
Yep.
Svartalfheim.
Excuse you?
Svartalfheim. That is the realm of the Dark Elves, which they are the bad guys of Thor, the Dark Thor.
Thor it hurts.
Yep, so Thor it hurts. Thor 2, this Thor is not a good Thor. That's the realm of the Dark Elves. In the MCU, they don't really talk about Svartalfheim. They just say the Dark Elves are an ancient race, not where they're from. They're from this realm. And Curse, the giant hulking dude in Thor the Dark Thor.
Okay. Yep.
He is created by the Marvel Universe as like the champion of the Dark Elves to match Thor of Asgard. Next one, Niflheim, Land of Ice. It's Ymir, who is a very popular comic villain, has not shown up so far in the MCU.
Okay.
Muspelheim, which is the Land of Fire. That's where Surtur is from. Thor Ragnarok kind of plays a major role. He is the reason that Ragnarok happens.
Oh, yeah, the big giant demon thing.
Fire demon guy.
Yeah. I had to remember that for a second.
So Muspelheim actually shows up in the MCU because that's where Thor is to start Thor Ragnarok. He's captor in Muspelheim.
The best Thor movie there is.
Yes. Oh, one of the best MCU movies.
Yeah, probably almost the best movie with Thor in it, hands down.
Yes, outside of Infinity War. Carrying on.
Agreed.
Jotunheim, which that's the land of the giants, and the giants aren't super tall creatures in this. That some of them are really tall, but it's more of a race, like the human race, the Aesir kind of thing. Jotunheim is where Loki is from. He's the son of a frost giant, and in the movie, Loki is adopted by Odin after Odin slaughters the frost giant. In the actual comic books, Loki and Thor become blood brothers. Loki is never adopted by Odin.
Okay.
They're like best friends. Even though Thor literally beats the shit out of Loki when, moving on to my next character, Loki cuts the hair off of Sif, Lady Sif, who is Thor's wife in the actual Norse mythos.
Okay.
She has beautiful golden hair, and everybody knows her for her golden hair. And then Loki just cuts her hair off because Loki's the god of mischief, and he thought it would be funny. And then Sif was the goddess.
It probably was.
Oh,
in the story of the
time,
mythos, it probably was.
At the time, it was probably pretty funny.
Because he tricked your guy. Everybody thought that was funny.
Yeah. Wait till you hear Loki's best trick. It's coming, and
it'll be a doozy.
It ruins everyone's day. I'm going to tell you that. Sif was the goddess of like the harvest, essentially.
Okay.
So when Loki cut her hair off and she went depressed because her hair was her favorite thing, no crops grew. And then Thor, who is the guardian of humanity, got kind of angry about that and beat the shit out of Loki. And then Loki gave her hair back.
It was only joshing.
And this is going to be a theme. Sif has beautiful golden blonde hair in the actual mythos. She has black hair in the comic books, black hair in the movies.
That's weird.
Yeah. Why change that? Just to finish
Maybe it's
up,
just easier to
to illustrate.
Yes, print more than anything.
Thor has a very big red beard and long red hair in the actual mythos, and then Marvel got a hold of him and gave him golden blonde hair.
I wonder if did he have golden blonde hair in the comics?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's true. He does.
As soon as they took him, they gave him blonde locks.
Well, you had to make him like a surfer dude, I guess. I don't know.
Also, that thou shit that he's always saying, he doesn't talk like that in the actual mythos. They just wanted him to sound godlier or whatever.
It's funny, too, because he's the only one who says that. Odin doesn't say it like that.
Yep.
Hela doesn't say it like that.
No.
Loki never says it like that. It's just him.
Then there's the Warriors 3, because in the comics, it's Sif and the Warriors 3.
Okay.
That they're like Thor's like leading dudes kind of thing. They always fight by his side. The Warriors 3 were literally just invented for the comic books because the Three Musketeers were big at the time. And Stan Lee wanted a Three Musketeers style team.
That's funny.
They do not exist at all in the mythos. And also, Sif in the comic books, she's not Thor's wife. She's just like one of Thor's closest friends / on-again, off-again girlfriend, because Thor actually falls in love with Jane Foster in the comic books. There's no Jane Foster in the mythos. Thor is just a piece of shit, and he marries Sif, and he just messes around with other gods constantly. In the Norse world, there is not much god-on-human action going on. Like, they do not come down and sleep with humans like the Greek and Romans do. There's no, like, real demigods. It's all just they're gods and God's children.
Well, I think in a lot of the Norse mythology, the gods, like, are gone. Like, they don't, like, come in... Like, I know in Greek mythology, you get a lot of, like, Dionysus is partying with so-and-so and things like that. Like, you get a lot of, like, the gods are among the mortals.
Well, the gods they're only certain ones become among the mortals, though. Yeah. It's like your Loki, Odin, and Thor are really the big three that do that.
Oh, okay.
And they travel from Asgard to the other realms via the Bifrost, which is a rainbow-colored bridge that transports them to the other realms. That was invented because rainbows. So in Norse mythology, whenever you see a rainbow, it's because one of the gods just took the Bifrost to Earth. Or they're taking the Bifrost back to Asgard. That's how they explained rainbows in the Norse mythos. Because call them crazy, but they didn't realize that when water reflects off of light, you get colors.
Prisms.
Yeah. They thought it was the gods either coming to or leaving Earth.
In the Judeo-Christian, God, the rainbow is God's promise being reaffirmed to the people not to cause the flood again.
Yeah, it's people without science trying to explain things they don't understand is what it is.
Well, that's all mythology ever is.
Yeah.
Because I don't really understand how this works, so we've created upper beings that we can't see or comprehend that are doing this because of that reason.
Yeah. We're getting a phone call.
Ohio calling me.
Calling in? Let's pick it up.
Now.
Let's take our first caller.
Let's take our first call in.
Let's go to the phone line. Let's take our first caller.
What, What spam call is that? I don't know either.
I ignored it. Now we'll never know. Moving on.
That's okay. You didn't answer your mom's call the one time.
Or Katie's call.
Yeah,
and she was
not so happy with you?
Yeah.
She still married you, though.
Yeah. Where was I? Moving on. Oh, Loki. Loki's a bad guy in the Marvel universe. He's not a bad guy in the mythos. He's just the god of mischief. So he's always playing jokes on people. He's not a bad guy. He's just a bit of a dick.
It almost reminds me of the scene from Wreck-It Ralph where he's talking to Zangief.
Yeah.
Zangief is... Just because Zangief is bad guy doesn't make him bad guy.
Yes. That is Loki in the actual mythology.
He's not really a bad guy in the MCU either. Like,
not anymore. He started out very much the bad guy. Like, he was the bad guy of Avengers 1.
He was, but he was also more like, he's just pissed off at his family. There's just a lot of family drama that just escalated into everybody else in the process.
It is true. Odin ends up hating Loki in the actual mythology because Odin has a son with his wife Freya.
Keep talking.
They named that son Balder.
Okay.
Anybody
see
anybody that loves video games
as much as you and I?
Yes, or more than us. They will know Balder as the bad guy of God of War. Balder is a total douche nozzle in God of War.
He was hilarious though.
He
was fun to beat up.
In Norse mythology, Balder was the most beloved man, god, creature ever created. Every single person in the world loved Balder. Every single god loved Balder. He's the nicest guy.
Why?
Everybody loved him.
Why would everybody love him?
That's just... I didn't do it.
You didn't do that much research. Got it.
Balder isn't a character in the Marvel world, so I can't tell the true story of Loki without bringing up Balder, so I did minimum research on Balder.
Fair.
Odin and Freya gave birth to Balder. Freya made everyone in the world promise to not hurt Balder in order to give him immortality. And she made every...
That's convenient.
And she gave...
Well, you got immortality, but nobody hurt you because everybody promised not to hurt you. So is he really immortal?
Everybody had to agree to do it. They weren't allowed to lie. They had to actually believe that they would never want to hurt Balder.
Okay.
And she did it for every man, woman, and child, as well as every element, except the element mistletoe. And Loki...
Why not?
Hated Balder because everybody loved Balder, but Loki thought he was just like... Loki thought he was the life of the party, so he's like, why doesn't everybody love me? I'm so much fun. So then Loki convinced another god to shoot Balder with mistletoe arrows because Balder was showing... There was a party where Balder was like, I'm invincible, hit me with stuff. And Loki's like, hey, here's some mistletoe arrows. They won't mess with him. Even though mistletoe is the only thing that Freya didn't make the agreement with. So then Balder died because Loki killed Balder. So Odin... hates Loki in the actual mythos because Loki got the favorite person in the world killed.
Yeah. Interesting thought process that just came to mind, and I'm sure people have this thought when they hear you say that. I wonder if that's the reason behind the mistletoe hanging up for Christmas. If there's some sort of connection to that being maybe to ward off Balder from your party or something?
No, Balder's still... Even in death, Balder was loved. Like, he didn't become a bad guy.
It's just weird that we hang up mistletoe, which is essentially a weed more than anything and highly poisonous.
Yeah. But
and maybe then we kiss under it.
Maybe it's a showing weakness. Like, Balder was beloved by all and invincible to everything except mistletoe. So if you're standing underneath it, you're saying that you're...
I don't know. It'd be interesting. Somebody look that up for me, because I'm lazy.
Anybody do it. We're not going to do it. I'm going back into my Balder speech.
Go back to your Balder. We know you love your Balder.
Freya then made a deal with Hel that if every single person on Earth would admit that Balder was a good guy, Hel would allow Balder to come back to life. Every human being on Earth said that they loved Balder except for one old woman that said, Balder never did anything for me. He was rude to me once. I never want to see him again. So the deal was neglect. As soon as Freya walks out of the room, shapeshift, it was Loki.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it was. Which they pretty much do in the MCU as well, Loki shapeshifting.
Yes.
And being a dick to everybody.
There's only two people in Norse mythology that shapeshift, and it's Loki and Odin. However, Loki does it to do shit like that.
Yeah.
Odin does it to either teach lessons or to learn amongst like the common folk.
Okay.
Without being like, oh my god, it's Odin. We need to act like it's Odin.
Yeah.
He just like he would shift into.
It's like that show, Undercover Boss.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly like that. That's a remarkable segue into Odin.
The true undercover boss.
Odin is most famous for Gungnir, Sleipnir, Hugin, and Munin.
Oh yes, of course. And those famous things you just said.
Yes, that is in order. Gungnir, his spear. Sleipnir, his horse, which that's the only one that I had known before this. I knew Sleipnir. It's also considered like the six-legged horse of the apocalypse.
Not to be confused with the three riders of the apocalypse.
Yeah, every apocalypse has to have a horse. And then
horses bring in bad luck. Didn't you know this?
They're his ravens, which are also like his spies because they talk to him. Hugin and Munin. The only one of them that is mentioned at all in the comics, or they're mentioned in passing in the comics. The ravens make several appearances. Mm-hmm. The only thing that is mentioned at all in the actual movies are the ravens, Hugin and Munin. And they're not actually mentioned. It's just whenever you see Thor and Loki having squabbles, there's almost always a raven in the shot somewhere in the MCU.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which I thought that's
pretty cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. That they just like they don't even bring attention to it. If you're not paying attention,
it's just there. It's like where's Waldo? Them.
Yeah.
Where's Odin's raven?
Yeah. Great Odin's raven.
By Odin's beard.
Odin is incredibly similar to, like the older Odin and the MCU/comics Odin are like the same person. Like they're all wise. They're the father of Thor. They put him through tribulations to teach him lessons, to try and make him a better man. Things like that. Odin rips his eye out and sells it for knowledge.
Oh, I was gonna say, why is he always portrayed with one eye?
Yeah, he sacrifices.
He also portrayed with two different color eyes.
Yes,
there's a lot of that too.
He sacrifices the eye so he can gain more knowledge.
Interesting.
Which is that's a respectable one. Mm-hmm. A lot of people sacrifice stuff to get power. He did for knowledge. Mm-hmm. Where else? He's not always missing an eye in the comic books, though.
No.
In
the mythos, he actually has two different color eyes. Yeah. I just said that, but I didn't finish that statement.
But if you ever see some actual Norse Odin stuff,
it's always like the patchy.
He's got one eye. Yeah. Because that was the point where he stopped being such a tyrant. Because like I said, when in the MCU they use Hela as like kind of his scapegoat.
Isn't that how he lost that eye? Was it in the MCU? Was the battle with Hela, or did he have that only one eye?
No, that was when Thor lost the eye.
Oh, that's right.
Odin always just had the golden eye patch.
Yep, you're right.
But
it's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, Odin was just a tyrant in his younger days. They literally rolled up into Vanaheim and just murked him. Just
why not?
Just because. So hey, we like your culture, but we like ours more. So you need to do our culture now, and we'll take some of yours, but we're just gonna kill you and rewrite the history books as to how we want them.
Well, it's also not to segue back to mine, but I'm gonna segue back to mine. In the Greek mythology, you have the Titans and the gods existed at the same time, and then there was the great war between the Titans and the gods defeated the Titans and locked them away, and then they took over the dominion of Earth and being the one people worshipped.
Right.
It's that whole "we're better than thou" kind of thing.
Holier than thou.
Holier than thou. Holy-ish.
No. Where we are. That's what I had on Odin. And then I kind of read them backwards based on like how I looked up the characters and stuff. Building to Thor. It feels like a good one to end on. Thor, like I said, comic books, blonde hair, mythos, red hair, red beard. Thor in 1962 was created as Donald Blake, who inherited the power of Thor.
It's like a Shazam. Shazam!
Had it written down in my notes. They literally wanted to copy DC Shazam, and they just found the God of Thunder, and they're like, "That's a perfect one. We're gonna use that." And then a year later, they're like, "This is dumb. Let's just make it Thor."
Sorry, not to go back as well, but Shazam also reminded me that they actually used the gods for the powers of Shazam, because it's like Hercules is strength, Hermes is speed, like that Shazam's power set is the Greek gods.
Well, Shazam is actually an acronym.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Each letter represents one of the gods.
Huh.
Solomon, Hercules, Ares,
the knowledge of Solomon,
Zeus, I'm going to say Apollo, and Mercury.
Maybe. Mercury's the same as Hermes. Same thing.
Yes, yeah. So that would be it.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I just remembered that.
That's good. I didn't know it was an acronym.
Yeah.
Good call. Good remembering. I'm going to give you props. Good call up on that one. Because that wasn't even a lookup.
That is not in my notes.
Nope.
I literally just remembered that.
I'll give you on that one. 100%.
Also, the M could be Mercury, but I'm going to say it's Ben Mendelsohn.
What?
The Australian actor.
Okay. I don't know who that is.
No, that was just a joke from the Weekly Planet.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay, so Thor cannot fly. At all.
Even when he throws his hammer, he holds on tight.
Can't do that in the actual mythos.
Oh.
In the MCU, he's very famous for swinging swinging the Mjolnir.
Swinging the hammer.
Swinging Mjolnir.
Which hammer?
And it lifts him off the ground, and he flies through the air with Mjolnir.
See, I don't think it's Mjolnir's doing it. I think it's his strength of actually throwing it, and it's the inertia of him throwing it. He's just holding on to as it drags him along.
Regardless, he can't do that. He cannot do that.
Okay.
In the actual mythos, he travels via a chariot towed by 2 goats. The goats are named Tooth Gnashes and Tooth Grinder.
Are they toothy?
Yeah,
big nasty.
They're very vicious goats. I mean, they pull a chariot. So they're flying goats, I guess, or the chariot's flying. I don't understand what flies here, but Thor travels via goat chariot in the actual mythos.
Okay, why not?
Thor is actually not a superpowered being in the Norse mythology. Like, he's the god of thunder, but he doesn't have super strength or anything like that. He needs a magic belt and magic gloves to gain all of that. The reason that he's able to lift Mjolnir in the mythos is that these gloves and this belt gives him such strength that he's unmatchable in strength. And Mjolnir is literally just insanely heavy. And that's the only reason he's able to lift it. There's no curse on it. There's no magic to it. It's the heaviest thing ever created.
So the MCU gave it more of a sentience and, identifies true
it sees your inner character, and only the Worthy can lift it in the MCU.
Who else is able to lift Mjolnir? I'm drawing a blank.
Captain America.
That's right. It was Captain America.
Black Widow has done it a few times in the comics. Beta Ray Bill, who's a horse-faced alien.
I thought you were going to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a second.
Honestly, she probably would.
She probably could.
If we're talking the Worthy,
it would definitely be RGB.
The notorious RGB.
She'd be just swinging around.
Yeah, she'd be out here.
That'd be her gavel.
Oh my God, the lightning bolt and everything. She's sitting on the board of Tennessee versus Gardner, and she's like, unconstitutional.
But he looks up, there's a hole in the ceiling of the courthouse.
That's awesome.
That's a great image. Oh. Anyway,
I hope you can all excuse me for losing my place after that one.
That was a good
one. Depending on the comic run, Thor is either dating Sif or married to Jane Foster.
Okay.
In no world, apparently, does he marry Lady Sif, which is who he actually marries. We covered that already.
Mm-hmm.
He's also, like, the super noble, super great. He's literally the greatest guy in the world.
Such a guy.
All that kind of stuff in the comic run after Odin taught him one lesson when he killed the Frost Giant King.
Okay.
Which that was in the first Thor movie. When in reality, Odin killed the Frost Giant King, and Thor's literally the worst person for most of his life. He's got some good traits, like he does typically protect the human race, but like if anybody steps up to him, he like revels in murdering anybody that tells him like, hey Thor, your hair looks stupid. Dead. Like,
oh really? Meet my hammer.
Like he's he's most famous in the mythology for his violent temper and his violent outbursts. When that doesn't really happen in the MCU, they wanted a
no,
hero's
of course it's
hero.
not gonna happen. Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
And he's like the most outside of Captain America. He is the most pure of heart kind of character.
I could see that.
When in reality, he's married to Sif and he's banging all kinds of gods. Jarn Saxa is his most famous mistress.
Who?
Jarn Saxa. It's Nordic. None of these words make sense. Just a bunch of letters thrown together and pronounced funny. And that's my thing on Thor. Just briefly touching on the God of War game.
Great game.
Yes. But Thor is closer to his God of War self than he is his Marvel self. Because the Thor of God of War is the worst. The worst. He's literally just murdering everybody just for the fun of it kind of thing.
Well, especially in God of War, the games, especially because there have been 5 or 6 at this point, and they're all connected. Kratos is just salty MFer against the gods, and the gods all hate him because he's literally going around murking them left and right and putting them in their place. But they also deserve it in every aspect of it.
In the PS4 version, they add Mimir to give you some like exposition as you're traveling. And every story he tells of Thor, there's several of them that they take actual Norse myths and Norse tales, and they like plot A, B, and D is exactly the same, but they change C just to make Thor a bigger asshole. Just so like you want to fight him.
I wonder if that's a construct of doing that, like the writers of the game be like, you want to amp the player up to actually whoop Thor's backside, or if that's, would you say the head's name was?
Mimir,
because he's a head when you're driving around with him because you cut his head off.
And it was
he was a tree, right?
It was Odin and Thor that made him be the tree, though.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just trying to talk Kratos into
That's
it.
what I'm saying, is it a little bit more of a...
And that game definitely sets you up for a sequel, so maybe you find out that Mimir has been like kind of twisting these tales a bit, and Thor is a little more righteous.
Long-legged in the tails.
There is the World Serpent, though, and the World Serpent talks shit on Thor. Yeah. They actually hate each other, that is true. The World Serpent is Loki's child.
Oh.
Yes.
That's a big child.
The man Loki gave birth...
Yes,
he gave birth, not his wife.
Oh,
Loki gave birth to this
the Norse are interesting
giant
people.
serpent. Yes.
Making all these weird stories up.
But Thor and the World Serpent, they do hate each other. I can't remember the World Serpent's name. It's some kind of Norse. There's 90 vowels, or 90 consonants and 1 vowel. Yeah. So it's very difficult to pronounce.
Bjork.
Bjork
the stork.
Yep. The Storkint.
The Storkint.
So
we just lost our one Icelandic listener.
Sorry. I love Iceland. I really love Iceland too. I don't want to upset the Icelandic people.
Not that they necessarily believe in Norse.
Yeah, we're being ignorant.
We're
gonna move on.
Anyways,
so the real mythos of Thor, it's like if God of War is all the way on the right and the Marvel Thor is all the way on the left, and let's say all the right is 100 and the left is a 0, Thor's at about a 60. Okay. Like the needle is tipping towards the God of War Thor, not the Marvel Universe Thor. But he is pretty close to the middle of the two. He's not the greatest, he's not the worst, but he's more of a piece of shit than he is righteous. And then God of War and Baldur, he's the worst, but he's not actually the worst.
Yeah, we talked to him.
And Freya's a supervillain in the game. Freya's not that bad.
Nah, she's pretty neutral.
She's just Freya is like the original like woman of power.
Yeah. And she's Hera. She's
what's the queen of the gods essentially.
Yeah. That's exactly what it ends up being. You know, it's Odin's wife, the queen of the gods kind of thing.
And she's like the god of the hunt.
I'm sorry if I missed this. Did DC have versions of these characters?
Honestly, I focus so much on the Marvel and MCU version because like that is what people would know.
Okay.
And I didn't want to dilute what I was saying too
much. I will answer that question. Yes, but it's the same concept of Marvel with the Olympians. It's much lesser known. And my point of bringing that up is, in doing this, I saw someone else bring this question up in my research, and it was, why are the Norse gods more prevalent in Marvel and Greek in DC? What's your take on that? Why do you think one is more prevalent in one and not the other?
Copyright.
No.
Copyright law.
Copyright's absolutely not being there, all stealing from everybody. We covered that like week 2 or 3.
If you change the A on Captain America's helmet to a P,
Captain P America,
Puerto Rico,
that's just wrong.
It's you have a new property somehow.
Yeah, never mind. Looks, sounds, acts, same power set.
Yeah, everything is identical.
Doesn't matter as long as the trademark is the different.
Yeah. Some kind of Stan Lee thing.
Actually, it is.
Really?
It's 100% Stan Lee thing.
Go, Carl. Like I said, Thor they created the character of Thor because they wanted their own Shazam. So maybe and after a year they ditched that. So maybe Stan Lee did some research and found like a passion of the Norse.
That's actually very close. I would say 99% correct.
Nailed it. Man, I'm
on fire. Absolutely.
I'm going to stop talking while I'm ahead.
There you go.
Tell us the real answer.
That is, I mean, it's essentially, Stan Lee was a fan of Norse mythology. He saw that DC had already established the Greek pantheon
in the 40s.
Back in the 40s, and said, I mean, he obviously did come out with it a couple years after coming out with the Norse, but that was more of, like we talked about earlier, he saw such success with
sucks
the success
yep.
with the Norse pantheon, that he decided to try his hand at the Greek.
Right.
Not as famous, not as well known, not as well received. Also, someone brought up a good point in my research, and they said, why would you introduce characters from an alternate pantheon when the powers and stories from both mythologies are so closely aligned? Why create another Thor character in a Greek when you have a Thor character already? Just do the same thing.
A successful Thor character at that point, too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to be like, okay, well, I have this, but they have the same characters, and now I'm going to confuse their storylines.
Well, also, Stan Lee is notorious for dropping acid and just kind of creating stuff. Like, do we need to talk about Throg?
Yes, because I don't know what that is.
A frog finds Mjolnir and is able to lift it and gain the power of Thor. He is therefore
why not
Throg, Thor Frog, and that is a comic run.
Did not know that one.
So Stan Lee, a lot of times he was just rolling the dice in his brain. He's like, yeah, let's just do that. I don't care.
Well, if you look at like the Inhumans, which is another different comic book series.
It's Marvel, though. We'll clarify for those that don't know.
We said Stan Lee. It's Marvel.
We're talking.
We said Stan Lee.
Keep going.
If you don't know Stan Lee, you don't know Marvel. Come on.
Go. Talk about the
just to make it wrong.
Talk about Black Bolt.
No, not Black Bolt.
Blackagar Boltagon. Do you know that's his real name?
No.
Blackagar Boltagon.
Oh.
And they call him Black Bolt. Or Black Bolt.
Black Bolt. No, I was thinking of the dog. The dog who's... I can't remember his power set, but it's just a giant freaking dog.
Well, he can teleport.
That's right, he teleports. Black Bolt's the one where
and also
the king
he's
of
electrically charged.
He looks like a freaking Saint Bernard.
Lockjaw.
Yep, that is his name. Because why the hell not?
I'm on fire today.
Or did you look it up?
I was just starting to look it up. I'm not even at the page yet.
It says Times Square.
Yep. I'm not even at the page yet.
Black Bolt's one, like, if he talks, he, like, blows up the world.
But he and Medusa are able to talk telepathically. So she says everything that he wants to say, and that's why she is his queen. Also, she can control every hair on her body, so she grows her hair super long so that she can kill people with it.
And uses, because I whip my hair around.
The Inhumans are bizarre
Yeah,
bizarre.
They made a movie, but they did a TV show, and it didn't do.
They announced a movie, and then they moved it to a TV show,
and it still didn't do well.
3 episodes, and they canceled it.
Yep. Anywho,
oh my god,
I've tried reading Inhuman stuff, and it's so bizarre. Like they're strong not Crisis. Oh, I know. What is it? Infinity War. They're big in Infinity War, like in the comic run of Infinity War, and even then it's just like, what is with these characters? Makes no
original
sense.
Infinity War or there's 2 Infinity run comic, but there's Infinity War and Infinity Gauntlet or something like that.
Nah, Infinity War.
There's 2 of them.
If there's a second one, I'm only thinking of Infinity War.
The one is Adam Warlock versus the Magus is the primary hero and villain.
No, I'm thinking like Thor, Infinity War. Not Thor.
Infinity
Thanos.
Thor, it would have been. If that were the case.
Yeah, Infinity Thor. Anyway,
do we have anybody mail in or whatever?
not this week.
None of that?
No.
All right, so
I will put out this, if anybody, we're trying to do some new designs for our merch. Anybody has any experience with some
graphic
photo
design,
shopping stuff, let us know. We got some ideas, and we're just not that technically advanced.
Nah, man.
We're at the extent of our technical capabilities just doing the podcast itself.
I mean, yeah, I'm pushing it with like my editing skills.
Yeah,
and
you're editing of posting.
All I'm doing is copy and pasting essentially, and I'm still struggling with it sometimes.
I would like to point out that my wife is doing a fantastic job as our new Facebook administrator.
Yes, she is.
All that new stuff this past couple of weeks has been her ideas and her ideas alone, and I would like to say that it's been amazing.
Yeah,
I appreciate
it. We actually have some engagement.
Yeah.
Where like,
and she's
we have posts that aren't just our podcast.
Yeah, she's going to come up with some new ideas to keep people interested in talking. So be on the lookout for that kind of stuff in the coming weeks.
Tell some friends.
As
always. Can we take a moment and just
take every moment?
I know football isn't really our wheelhouse. However, video games are. And I just want to take a moment and say that Madden 21 is the worst heap of shit that I have played in such a long time. Like, I am furious that I bought the digital copy.
Because you can't return it?
Because now I can't trade it in.
Yeah.
And like,
That's the problem with digital.
I have bought every Madden since Madden 03. And like, I've played it the whole year. I've done what I needed to do. But this one has broke me. I hate it.
You showed me the one video earlier.
Playable.
That was just terrible.
The video I showed him, I was down by 4 with 30 seconds left in the game. Anybody that doesn't know football, if you get out of bounds, the clock stops so you can run another play. I passed the ball to a guy who had a wide open lane at the out of bounds line, and he just stopped. His feet stopped moving, and he stood up and let the computer tackle him in bounds. It's just glitchy, buggy, absolute trash, and I just needed to say that to somebody.
To be fair, EA is notorious for crap. So,
but it's EA. This
exactly.
Is EA.
It's EA.
This is the biggest selling game every year, and I wouldn't be as upset if it stayed the same. But it's getting worse
because they know you will still pay $60 a year for that game.
Unless some major updates come out in the next couple months.
I think they should have just
done.
I think they should have just taken that game. You buy the base game, and every year you buy a new roster. Because that's all it is a new roster. Slightly different visuals. Maybe every 5 years it's a new game.
Yeah.
And you have to buy a new base game.
And they put it out as an expansion pack where they update the rosters and maybe add one new feature. They charge you $10.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. But it's $60.
However, apparently, if I paid $10 for this, they would have imported a bunch of bugs and glitches and shit into my game that worked with an updated roster. Last year's Madden wasn't great, but it was playable. I'm just... It falls into our wheelhouse as a video game.
Absolutely.
So I feel like I need to address where I stand on it.
I agree with this. The video you showed me was just BS because it was literally run, stop. It just waited to be tackled.
A yard or two next to the sideline. Like the game recognized I was running towards the sideline, and then the guy just stopped and stood up.
Said, nope, you are getting that 4th down, and
the clock's going to keep running.
Yep. And you were going to lose this game because you bet you did.
Oh, yeah. I didn't have any timeouts left.
Right.
That's why I was going for the sideline.
Oh. Yeah, that video was something. digress.
Now that you have a podcast of me not being negative for 74 minutes, I had to throw it in there somewhere.
We have to be negative. That's our thing.
Yeah, I had to throw negativity
Something had to be negative.
in there.
Speaking of negativity, what are we going to do next week, Carl?
What? Oh, Christ, you're going to make me do it. I forgot for a second. I was happy. Next week, we're going back into traveling into the Star Wars universe. Join us on this fantastic journey as we go through the Star Wars movies with our review of the 2000-something movie, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
I love how that's your genuine response. That's not made up. That is literally how you feel. And yes, if you couldn't tell, we're doing episode 2 of Star Wars.
I said it. No,
I know you said it. I don't know if you could hear it.
I said what we're doing. I let the people know.
Well, you didn't like my other
with the
idea,
same amount of excitement that I have for covering this movie.
But are we going to do it the way we discussed? Or are we going to do it the normal way?
I would have to edit it together. We'd have to do 2 audio files that I edited together for us to have the audio commentary version.
That sounds like a you problem.
I mean, it could be a we problem if I can't figure out how to do that.
That's true.
I think I can, though. I think I can do it.
We're going to try and do a commentary style video for next week where Carl and I get together and we watch the movie together and make fun of it. You'll probably hear the movie in the background. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down off the internet, because who knows.
On Podbean, it will be in 2 parts. On Anchor and YouTube, it will be 1 solid video.
For 2 hours.
Yes, for the length of the movie.
Probably 2.5, because we'll talk beer beforehand.
Yes.
We'll do our usual style.
If for any reason I cannot figure out how to get it going in 2 parts, then it'll be 2 parts. Well, no, it'll be this. It'll be if I'm really struggling, I'm going to play with it a little bit to see if I can get it done earlier this week. And if there's no conceivable way that I can make the video work, it's going to be an episode like this.
Yeah.
However, the current plan is a watch-along audio commentary where you're just going to... I don't know if I'm going to be silent or what.
I will commentate on Carl having a heart attack and an aneurysm all at the same time. And every time he wipes his face out of disgust and hatred.
I don't want to watch this movie. The positive thing about being the audio commentary version is we're going to watch it together and I don't have to waste more of my time watching it beforehand.
It's true. And we can both make fun of it at the same time.
Yeah. All right. So, until then, get at us at the Drunken Nerd Podcast at gmail.com, the Drunken Nerd Podcast on Facebook, the Drunken Nerd Podcast on Twitter. Get at me at the Carl Evans on Twitter. Get at Shipper at...
there's a Facebook.
The Drunken Nerd Podcast at gmail.com. My God.
If there were enough people who were clamoring for me to have a Twitter, I would have a Twitter. But nobody's
Let's get
clamoring.
that movement going. Let's get that
There's nobody asking for it. So.
Number 1 worldwide, baby.
Ooh, that was pretty.
That was a long one. Anyway.
Until next time.
Clink. You hear that?